It's every parent's dream that their children in time, the right time, that they get in relationships from the confines of sharing the same religious beliefs or even church. Well, that is if your church has noble men or women and are of course good looking. I mean, who doesn't want that? Now the problem arises when they clock a particular age and they just don't associate with the boys and girls you expect. You can only imagine how worrying it can be to a parent. But hey, I'm not a parent, so let me talk about that which I know. Now let me talk about my relation with your daughter and son. Now, in our youthful circles, you'll hear of statements like, I just can't date from my church. And this notion is always backed up with supporting statements anchored on experience. Now, please don't watch the show thinking we are going to highlight the reasons only, but also understand the background with us. Welcome to The Identity. Now, on today's panel, we have John Ceremony. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the set.
Thanks.
Next to him is Brenda Mbalanya.
Hola.
What's up?
You good?
Very good. Next to her is Roger Duncan.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine.
Welcome to the set.
Thank
and
you.
lastly, Sally Orico.
Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
You good?
Yes.
Nice. Now, welcome to the show now. Talking about the topic of discussion is, I just can't date from my church. And today, let me start from the highest point. Evangelist Roger. Have you dated without, from the confines of the church?
Say that, ask the question again.
Have you dated outside the confines of the church?
Well, maybe, since I'm the senior here, maybe if you ask one of the youngsters who have an ideal answer, but the truth is, I've been a fallen man, so I've done all the wrong things.
Well, you see, the reason why I started with you is that when I go and ask John, he won't feel, you know.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now since my senior has done, oh well, I can air it. Sally, have you?
Yes.
How was your experience?
Tara.
Think about it, because I'm coming to ask that.
Say, grow up or no grow.
Brenda,
Yes.
have you? And what was your experience?
Please, ma'am. I love you very much, but honestly, it was bittersweet, for lack of a better word.
Bittersweet. How was your experience? I'm coming back to you again, Sally. How was your experience?
Same. No, it was interesting, actually. Learned a few things about myself. Learned a few things about my then partner. And the church in general, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
John, have you?
I can't remember.
What do you mean you can't? You know, there's the lady's going to watch and ask you, how many girlfriends have you had then?
Yeah, but no.
You haven't?
Yeah.
Now, in a case where we need to put a black sheep, you are standing out like one. Okay, let me ask why.
I think at the back of my mind, I've always known it's an irreducible minimum when I'm considering someone. So even like back in the day when I wasn't quite as involved in church or spiritual, I just knew it's going to be hard to date someone who is not from my church.
Okay. Brenda, comparing your experience, because I am sure you've dated also from the church. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
Okay, thank Lord. Comparing the experiences, which one was more exciting than the other? Honestly.
Okay, guy. Why do you know me this much? But honestly, I think dating outside was more interesting and exciting. Of course, it had its downfalls, but when it comes to the thrill, oof, Lord have mercy.
Are you trying to suggest that Dating from the confines of the church guys are boring.
Well, to be honest,
Yes.
our Adventist men need a bit, okay, not a bit, a lot of styling up when it comes to dating. And we will come to the cons later, but for now, I think maybe there should be an exchange program. This is what I think.
Wow.
There should be an exchange program
Wow.
where then an Adventist man can give tips, just here and there.
Point of order.
Please bring it.
Point of order. What do you mean by styling?
Sere, you like, we as Adventist men, I think it's a disease. We over spiritualize everything, and especially on the dating scene. So what most non-Adventist guys provide is you to be real and you to be you and authentic at that moment. So you don't have to look for excuses, or you don't have to constantly back up with spirit of prophecy for every action that you do. You just do it because you know you've done it, you know. So to a large extent, okay, no offense, I understand. It's hard being an Adventist man because we give you too many pressures. We are sorry.
Have you answered? Are you content with the answer? For now. Roger, what do you make of those claims?
In terms of catching up, I have a lawyer friend in the church. Young, nice, beautiful, very beautiful young lady, well educated. So she said she met this young Adventist man. And the first day of the date, he took out Ellen G. White book and read, as if to suggest, you know, I'm so spiritual. So to her, so spiritual. So I understand, I resonate with what she's saying. So that to impress upon her, he's such, and that is what actually chased her. She wanted a more natural encounter, and we go from there. So I think...
Sally, would you concur with what you said? But then you're not dating the same person?
No, I'm not dating the same person.
Of course, no.
But it is, can I call it freedom? There's that freedom. Because you see, Adventist men sometimes portray themselves as more spiritual than they actually are. And then, in my experience, when I dated outside the church, this person allowed me to explore my spirituality the way I was raised and bred, and not judge, and, you know, still also allowed me to be myself. Because see, when I was with the Adventist man, there's a certain way you have to be now. Because now you know, okay, if I said this, he's going to get offended because now, you know, he's spiritual and he's holding the Bible and in wide desire of ages. You know how elders work with all their books like this.
They've close to the heart.
You know, he's working with all those books, you know, so if I don't want to, it's like walking on eggshells, you know, you don't want to do or trigger something that will cause a sermon.
Someone's
Just interject both of the ladies also another part of it, because my response was to the spiritual part. As for the excitement part, there's also a biblical premise for things stolen to appear sweet. Like Solomon, stolen water is sweet. So I would like us to address that. I don't want to answer the question myself. Is it possible to these ladies, the sweetness and the excitement you felt is because in your heart you knew this is not the path I should be carrying, and I was fulfilling the Solomonic word where he says stolen water is sweet? Tell me.
Yes. Now that you brought yourself...
Was it true excitement? Was it true excitement?
Well...
It's more, okay, I get where you're coming from. It's more in the sense of not necessarily knowing full well that, knowing that this is not the path you're supposed to walk. Because I know a couple of friends who have been in relationship with people outside the church, and for one reason or another their partner converted to become an Adventist because of how they lived and how they presented themselves. And vice versa also is true. But it's more of the part that this person, at least for me, I don't know, this person gave me something that I didn't find in the Adventist man.
And every Adventist man watching would want to know, what is this? What is this that you got there that you can't get in the conference of the church?
I think she highlighted it. Just the freedom to be authentically you, without having to fit in a mold. You see, the problem is, and I'll use a typical scenario. Suppose you're dating a spiritually high brother, or a more common term, Mtumishi, yeah? And he has this message, like he's, don't eat red meat, dress reform, hair reform, no makeup. And you as a girlfriend, you have to fit in that mold. You have to be the living someone. You have to be the first someone to be converted, And especially if you have been doing that before, so you have to switch and either keep low hair or natural hair. I'm not saying natural hair ladies are doing that because of their boyfriends. Please don't kill me. But like there's a mold you're meant to fit because society will have to look at that person and you'll be the first person to be used as a metric for the success of his message, So,
John, what do you make of such statements?
There are two things. I think it's true and it speaks to a problem with most of our young men. We'll get to the ladies, but most of our young men, they have a wrong conception of spirituality and religion to the point where, you see, God does not use force. And so God has waited for you 20 years for you to reform, ever since you were born, right? And what he's been doing is growing your capacity to understand what he requires from you. And so I think, yes, there are those requirements, yes, but they should come naturally in the sense that if I'm dating a lady, if I'm dating, let's say, Brenda, for example.
Amen.
And she's not, grown spiritually to my own level, then I should be, I should give her the space to make those decisions, to read those books, and be convicted in her own mind for her own self.
Let me put you on the frying pan with that very statement. How many young guys would do that?
Very few, unfortunately. And that's the thing, that's
the problem.
Yes. In terms of guys, that's the problem where they are not authentic in their, first of all, even in their friendships. Forget about relationships. Because it turns out that if you're authentic with the friendships, if I do something to hurt you, I should be authentic enough to come to you and say, hey bro, I'm sorry, I did this and this. And so to the point where you see me for who I really am. And so when I enter into a relationship and I see someone struggling, let's say with the issue on dress, I can encourage them on the way instead of putting it as a requirement for being in a relationship.
Well, I wish this ideal met someone for real. Roger?
In some of the episodes that we have done in this studio, there's a common denominator that keeps coming up, a sense of education for men. And our brother just alluded to it in that it seems that we just don't know. Because the ladies are saying they're unauthentic, doesn't know what to do. So my question, why I raise this to ask a question. For all this preaching that we have had, for all these books that we have been reading, for all these scholars that have been pontificating across the pulpit, then is it possible that you can talk and you have not communicated? Because there is a problem. And these girls are not being met where they are. And as I said in one of our previous taping, corrective measures has to start with the source. And Adam was the source. That is why he came as an Adam. Not so. We think it's about correcting women and children. It's about correcting men. And my nature, naturally, I don't like to focus on the spider web, but the spider. So I think we have been talking, reading all those books, we see camp meeting being there, but there's a disconnect that for a program to be effective and probably reach the person out there, we need to address. Is it that we're not communicating right? We're not living it? I'm not saying I know the answer to it, but I've heard this problem articulated. We really don't know what to do. Is it an issue of fathers? So we have not seen it well? I don't know. We can talk to that possibly.
Sally, let me bring you in. From what you have said, let me now present another dichotomy view. Now, in the conference of our previous discussion, talking about religion, Adventists and stuff. Now, what of my local church? What of my local... Sally, would you date a guy from your local church?
Yeah, I would.
But has it been an issue?
To date from a local church?
Yes.
For me,
Yes.
personally, yes, it has.
Of course, I'm going to school. How?
Unfortunately or fortunately, because of my gender, I am not allowed by societal standards to approach a man and say, hey, I like you. Can we date?
Of course, you're not allowed.
I'm not.
Of course.
So,
But who said this? Anyway, okay, fine, continue.
that is
continue.
a good question.
Continue.
Who said? But because of that, as much as yes, I can date a gentleman from my local church, unfortunately for me, they are not approaching me.
Okay. Brie, would you?
I would.
But?
Same thing with Sally. Or maybe, I think I'll take it from a slightly different angle. So for me, I have come to this conclusion. I think the guys in my circle treat me as a bro. So,
Wow.
so they see me as one of the boys.
Yep.
So by the time they start picturing, I kind of like you, but man,
Not like that.
not like that, So I would be willing, but there's that barrier. So
zone.
I just end up being the bro, just hang out like the boys.
John, you want to jump in?
So this is a strange thing. We go to the same church.
This is interesting. This is even interesting.
And she's my bro.
Guys, it has
for the
been proven live on TV.
You have preached.
Now, these are genuine reasons, because I'm sure there are very many other ladies who have been exposed to such kind of feeling. And I also want to more of throw a spanner in the works. Sometimes, could it be that as much as I'd want to date you and we come from the local church, there will be this whole pressure from the family and the church that would probably not make that relationship grow? Could there be that possibility?
I think so. Because in a way, when it comes to romance, people would rather enjoy some level of novelty. So there's a lot of familiarity in a local church. And that's why you'll find maybe most of the young men in your local church will probably approach a lady from somewhere else, though within the same confines of the denomination. So together with as well family, my mom knows her, and all that, those kinds of things. It makes it a little more like, it loses the novelty, let me just say.
I want to test John's hypothesis in a sense. The novelty that these guys don't have with these young girls. I want to ask a question on that. Have you seen in your own local church, in your own choirs, sexcapades, love making, touching? So what's the issue? If you can touch, so you don't want to date me, because some of those same guys, I want to get to another issue. These same guys, not John, he's a decent man, he never even went out. But these same guys who will say, bro, if you really throw,
Yeah.
it will be a different story.
Yeah.
If you know, I'm being practical,
Yes.
because you asked.
Yes.
So sometimes it's something even more. There is another substratum to it, not just that she is my bro, because really and truly, anything that goes against the design of God, I question it. That's my model of discussing. And let me explain. When Adam was alone, he had all the animals. But the reason why the scriptures say he was all alone, because there was not something compatible. The Hebrew word is Ezra Kadnetgo. It's like there wasn't something like him. So the way we are wired is really to pull to your own.
Okay.
So the opposite, which seems commonplace, is what is really wrong. It's an anomaly for God. That is what the Hebrew family mispaka is coming together with your own. There's nothing wrong with ownness. But what has happened again? That haunting spirit. Let me just and men have this. You leave the one you want in the glass case for a while, you know. And you don't look at John because he look like a very good guy. But I can say as a sinner like myself, you kind of reserve these and you go plain. And sometimes that is also an issue. It's not just a question of the local and not finding and stuff like that. It's just that men, we have this thing, and I know my guys. I just don't want to say too much.
Say too much.
No. I don't want. I want to come back.
Yes, I like the way you've thrown the ball back at him.
There's an actual truth in what he's saying, genuinely speaking. Because if you're to give a truthful presentation of what is happening in the churches, that you'll find we guys and you bros, sorry for using that, you bros, we have spoken about all these things that is required of us. And that ideal Christian woman that you want to see. And Sally will do that. Brie will do that. And after she's done that, you're like, you look good. But, you know, you're good, but you're bro. And that is what is really happening on the church level. That's what is happening to us as young guys. Let me not say all, but a majority. Which again, as you have alluded to, it is something central that we're supposed to look into. Something that is beyond just sight and taste and preference, but then something that is integral, something that is principle. And I want to ask a more obvious question. John, are there dateable people in church? It's obvious, but then I'll still want to ask it because I'm going to have a follow-up which is heavy.
Yes.
And why are they not dating?
Why are they not dating? Why are they not dating? Okay, well, I'm thinking there are many reasons why people don't date. But where, like, forget about reasons where someone was hurt and they're taking that time to heal, or they feel they're not ready, etc. But besides those reasons, if someone has no other reason and they're not dating, I don't know, we need to talk to them.
Something that hurts about this conversation is that I remember once that I was sharing with a lady friend of mine, and she said, you know, Sammy, I don't understand guys, genuinely, because you would say that you want a lady who's all put together and stuff. But then when it comes to the time that you're choosing for a life partner, you'll go for that lady who's going to put on your hot pant on Monday morning at 8 a.m. Maybe I've presented it in an extreme version, but pretty much the same. Which it hurts, because I have been to very many congregations, and that always comes out. We are here. I think they've all said it. We are here. We have not gone anywhere. We are that particular kind of version of lady that you want, but you're not. Why?
Can I now jump into that one?
Please. Why?
So, okay. Now, there's obviously preferences really matter. Okay? And people can have various preferences, right? At the end of the day, I think because there's this dynamic where it's the lady who's supposed to wait to be approached and the guy who's supposed to approach, many ladies have certain expectations and then they get disappointed. And that's fine, that's normal. Because even guys get blue-ticked a lot. But besides that, I think there's the there's the part where, in terms of just basic preferences, you find that I don't think that is as prevalent as people imagine it to be. Where, I don't see so many people, so many good men in church who have this ideal that they're looking for, and then they go for something else, So I think just because it's happened once or twice, there's this idea amongst the lady circles that, most men are just going for ladies who they don't desire, that they don't talk about. Like someone can say, let's say, let me give a concrete example. Someone might say that, he's thinking about a lady who has done all those reforms and, is spiritual to a certain level. And then all of a sudden, he goes for someone who has not. So I don't think there are so many cases like that. It's just a narrative that is out there because good men are actually there and they do go for ladies that they want. There are preferences. There are very strange preferences. Someone might like, I don't know, a plump lady, a skinny lady. You never know, by the way. Yeah, someone might like a lady with a big forehead.
Now, I might come out as a ladies' advocate, but one thing I've learned in our churches, you'll always find pineapple, orange, mango. They're all there.
Yes.
They're all there. But then somehow, we just happen to go for that that fruit. It's called forest fruit. I don't know what it's called. I don't know why. But now, in that case, what would it be wrong for pineapple, orange? I'm sorry for. Please don't attack me for please.
Calling us pineapples and oranges.
Yes, please don't attack me. Now, would it be wrong for them to look out? See you after the break. Welcome back to the Identity Now. During the break, I was almost attacked, almost thrown from doing this show because I alluded to ladies as fruit, so forgive me for that if you're offended. If you're not, we can carry on with the discussion. Now, Roger, is it wrong for ladies who are not being approached from within the confines of the church to look out?
I don't want to discuss it from the narrow perspective of being wrong, because then I would have narrowed it down. I can just say yes, it's wrong. But wrong and right is a very strange thing. So in your context, let me address your context here. You go around the church, there's a preponderance of women, bright, educated, and the dynamics have changed. When it was the other way around, now the culture is changing. So there are many dynamics that have left the Kenyan woman and the African woman in general almost in a church, one to many, so many women that are there. Now you ask yourself, if God give them the need, the desire to have a man and all that, and there are so few men, and then when you confine it down to stable, I don't want to put like a condemnation on their head. I just say they have a rough time. It's really rough practically, because I can pontificate morally and spiritually, But practically, I feel honestly sorry. Men are spoiled for choice. A handsome man like John, I show a 10 is lining up. He's spoiled for choice. But a lady, like they said, educated, and they're hoping.
Where is he?
You know, and it's tough. So again, it's an issue to be addressed singly as a topic. How are we treating with a nice lady like Sally, who's a strong woman, almost called a feminist, and then again, in the culture that we have, once a woman appears to be strong, she also have a lesser chance of even. So I think it's a serious issue.
I think it's sad. It's very sad. If you really think about it, I'm not a parent. I said that in the preamble. But then I'm imagining of a parent who's looking at their daughter who has come of age. But girls are not looking at. I'm not a parent, so I'm not going to go down that road. Let me stick to what I know. John, is there perfect example? I know of a lady, a good friend of mine, who is very strong in church. Good. And when you interact, you're like, wow, she just oozes. You know, she oozes
material.
Proverbs
oozes
31.
wife material. Unfortunately, guys are not looking her way because there's this thought that, hey, she's too old, she's just going to cook for me, things that, you know. Now, this lady gets approached with a guy from outside. Then lo and behold, Samuel Maangi and his friends. Is anything spiritually wrong?
Wow.
That's another heavy one, I know.
Yeah. So, I think, like when you asked me the first question, I said for me, there are some irreducible like minimums. And one of that is, because you have to be practical as well about the future, the spiritual direction of the home and of the marriage. You know, if this man is going to be the high priest of the home, what is he going to teach you, etc. So I think at the end of the day, there's a point at which we have to say, we can't apply situational ethics. We have to say, this is what God says, okay? And God is the one who provides. I know a lady, just as a final example, I know a lady who has stayed a while, and all of a sudden, a guy just came out of nowhere from some same denomination, an Adventist, and they married, you know, and she was worried. But this guy came out of nowhere, all right? Okay, he came from somewhere, but you get the point. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it is a test of trust. Even for men, like you may think that men are spoiled for choice, but I can show you some very funny.
Not? Good men, are they not?
Yeah, maybe because they are few, but even with that, at the end of the day, because the equation has preferences put into it, it has so many other things in there. Again, also, Andrew says something about the ladies. Not all of them, but for some of them, the reason why they're not being approached is because, number one, they're not approachable. The way they carry themselves, it is not. Let me explain myself.
Okay.
Prepare. Please carry your shield.
Yeah. So to the point where, let's say this is a very mundane example. You put up an update on WhatsApp, you know, or rather, I put up, you know, an update, a funny statement or something. You're going to laugh, but you'll think it's an appearance of evil to comment into my inbox and say, hey, this thing is funny. You know, how are we going to start interacting as well? If I only see you in prayer nights, when are we going to start talking?
Allah.
All right. So for some of them, not all, but for some of them, there's a problem with approachability and availability. All right. And I think that's something ladies need to rethink, because many of them are dating Jesus. They're dating on a level that we cannot reach.
I am done. Wow.
Yes. So they have certain standards which, you remember the issue that they began with about authenticity? So there are certain ladies as well, I know I'm flipping the argument.
It's okay.
There are certain ladies as well where you cannot be authentic with them. That's why even there's a problem of young men going outside.
Sally, you're about to shoot my brother down. I will defend him, then shoot. Shoot first.
No, I agree with some of the sentiments he made. There are women there who have a standard of the ideal man.
They're looking for
that
Jesus.
That does not exist. Only exists in their mind. There's that. But if you approach a woman, she will make herself available. It's as simple as that. I get what he said, that there's the factor about availability.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
There's the factor about availability, approachability, fine. But if a woman is genuinely not interested in you, she will make it known in her own unique way. But then if she is interested, trust me, she will clear her schedule to make herself available for you.
Okay, Roger, what do you make of
You know,
it?
as a preacher, I've been all over the world. And whether it's Africa, Europe, Asia, I've preached. And I'm now talking about my church circle Adventists. So many women, so many come up and say, they call me Pastor, I can't find. I just can't find. Is it there? That problem, that real problem to them, whether real or imagined. But I have my own observation that I have looked in congregation, and I think I have a vantage point of having a wide sample size. I'm not just talking Kenya. I've seen, there seems to be just a lot of women looking after this rare species. That is there. Because men are probably not coming to church, or just not consistent, or not spiritual. They're out there DJing and smoking bang and drinking changa. So then you find they have a problem. But I want to address now, I mean, John seemed to be a theologian. He mentioned about the irreducible minimums, which of course is a personal thing, and maybe there's a biblical underpinning for that view. But I want to throw a spanner in the works because it's scriptural, and I can't take a divine eraser and rub it off. I've seen some anomalies that I want to address. I've seen Joseph, a man of God that is a quintessential man, and that he left his coat in a woman's hand. Yet God allowed him to marry an Asenath, who was the daughter of Potiphar, and she was an idol worshiper. I see Moses with Zipporah. I see Boaz with Ruth. So the issue even of situational ethics, what it is for God. In other words, we cannot be afraid to discuss this in the set where you are asking, can they go out? When I'm seeing precedent, whether wrong or right, in scripture, where people are joined and made it. If you get what I'm trying to say. And the reason why I raise it, because most of our discussion is kosher within ourselves, and we don't break the mold of which we have discussed it in the past. You get me?
Yes, unfortunately, the reason I want also to concur with you in this is that most of the times when you find ladies being married, or rather being in relationships with people who are not per se Adventists, or other people who are not in a denominational confines, we all go arms blazing.
To kill them.
Yeah, we don't know. Because I want to be careful to say this. No lady being brought up in the confines of the church and understanding what is required of her will just decide to march out like, yes, I'm going because there has to be a reason. There is a need in church. And one thing I'll just pretty much suggest is that instead of us going arms blazing to these beautiful sisters of ours, probably it's time for us men to educate ourselves, understand this need and address it logically, not over spiritualizing everything. Because again, that has been a claim that has been raised with them, not over spiritualizing everything. But I don't want to run from this particular question.
Exactly.
Now, since we have ladies, since there are ladies who get to date outside, we guys have come up with a new strategies. Since you are our bros, let me go out, preach,
Convert. Bring them in.
You're going to be my wife now. You're going to be my wife. What do you make of this? I'm throwing it out there.
That's what, in high school, that's what we used to call boyfriend or girlfriend evangelism.
Yes.
You know, where you go and convert the one outside.
To some it works.
To some it works. Like Rogers has alluded to, there's characters in the Bible that actually happen and it works for the glory of God. You understand? But I don't know if that's the direction you are going for, in the sense that now, because I'm your bro, and there's the whole familiarity of things, and we've probably talked about everything, and you friend-zoned me, or I friend-zoned you. Now I'm not attractive in that sense, in the sense of if you were marriage, basically. I'm not attractive. So you go out there to that which attracts you. And then you tell her, there's this new thing here in church, come and see. You understand? And then she comes, there's some who convert and glory be to God. Life moves on. But there's some who come for the basic factor of, because even out there, it's the same problem. Men out there are not approaching. Men out there are too out there, are too of the world. We want a Christian man.
Now the question,
so Christian man comes and says, okay, I will convert. But once she says, I do, she goes back to the world.
is this a good recipe for guys who are watching? Now, I should ask John or Roger. I mean, since we have very many bros, I don't know why. Is this a good recipe?
I think it's very dangerous to some degree. You know, just like in the final example, you never know where this person's heart is going to land. You never know why they're accepting you. Now, fine, yes. How can I say this? You see, this person, the reason why they are converting, why are they converting, so to speak? Is it because, you know, instead they see the possibility of marriage? Okay, and sometimes it works out by this. Sometimes because of the genuineness of their heart, they actually now even become more of the message than you. But I think if we're going to do anything, we must do it according to the way God leads us now. So unless you're sure that God is leading you, because with all the examples that Evangelist gave, it was God leading. You know, unless you're sure that God is leading you in those manners, because I know life is not rigid. There's a variability to everything. Then, just like, for example, just as a small example, there was a rule against eating the bread, you know, but David did eat, right? So at the end of the day, unless God is the one who's leading and you're sure of it, I think it's very, very dangerous. And that's why there's an injunction in the Bible against it.
Okay.
I just want to make sure and talk to the audience that is listening, and I'm aware of those. The example that we have used in Asenath and Joseph and stuff is an exception. It's not the ideal. But the reason why it's there is to curb our condemnability, if there is such a word. The condemnation of those who find themselves in a similar situation. God has a few there to say, be careful how you judge. Because as a people, the problem is we have a judging. And we put, oh, they are lost, that's adultery. Oh, they are unequally yoked, and so that person is lost. And God is saying, do you know who I brought out of an unequally yoked situation? Manasseh and Ephraim. Do you know what I brought out of some barren wombs? In other words, we have bottled God and imprisoned him to suit a God of our minds. So those examples are not the ideal, because there's clear scriptural mandate that we shouldn't mix seeds, we shouldn't mix cotton and then different cloth. It is there because mixture is a problem. And as a theologian, I can also say the reason why the tree of knowledge of good and evil was bad is mixture. God is not happy with mixtures, my friend. Trust me. It's either you're cold or you're hot. When you're in, he has a problem. So that he doesn't like people, you are out there in the world and I am inside in the church and we are mingling. It's create problem. But as a God of grace, he still goes and say, look what I can do with an unideal situation. So what should be our attitude, having said what I've said? Stop condemning people. That's the thing. Stop condemning people. Leave their salvation to God. Love them. You can help them. But this way we have That's the problem, I think, is a serious problem.
I agree, and that also leads me to ask Bri, you've been silent. Is it a safe line to walk into marriage just because we share the same belief?
Interesting. She swallowed.
Hey, after this, if you have a family life session, but I think Sari has sort of tackled it. There's more to marriage definitely than the same belief, of course. But even as that has been said, there is also some sort of comfort when you realize you're walking in the same path with someone. Like, you don't have to explain yourself too much to someone who pretty much shares the same values and core principles with you.
A good friend of mine made it simple for me to understand, and she said, you know, you have one less thing to argue about.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
You have one less thing to argue about.
That's it.
But
That's it.
I mean, in a marriage setup, I'm not married. I am not married. I want to imagine there is a lot. Is it a safe line? I want to bring you, Roger, because we are not married here. We are not married, but
A safe line for the belief.
Is it a safe line for me, Samuel Maangi, to marry somebody just because we share the same belief?
No. The word, your preface word, just because. No. Because we can see evidence of beliefs. We are in the same belief and we are fighting like dog and cat. So it's not just about belief. Let me tell you what brings people together. Even when beliefs are different, when there is a love for that God, because I'm a businessman as well. Some of the best businessmen I've dealt with is Muslims, not even Christians, to be honest. We don't share the same beliefs in a sense. So I'm saying that more than just a belief, this doctrine of the sanctuary, there is more to it than just that belief of head. There must be something, and I think is when Christ is the centrality of the person's life, you find yourself getting along better. So it transcends belief, but it includes belief. Because I can have somebody, we all love Jesus, but we are so disparate in the true sense. You are there, I am here, then you have conflict. So I don't want to go on either side of the pendulum and say that the ideal is we share the same belief, we are in the same church and stuff like that. But the truth is, if truth be told, we're really not in an ideal world, and God is really using His grace to make this mess work that we have. And at the end of the day, you'll find I'm stretching this all the time. At the end of the day, let's just love one another. And you'll be surprised to know people change and get the point. If the love of Christ is exuded in me and her, man, we change, but we don't do that. We like to beat, and that's the issue for me.
You know, looking to this discussion, even as we come to a close, there are very many things that we would have talked about. I'm left to think that this thought, this notion of I just can't date from my church has a larger. If we rolled out the curtain and had more time, the premises of this particular statement goes to certain, I wouldn't call it practices, but beliefs that are hurting us as youths. And I'd like to give each one of you a particular minutes for you to give your last sentiments about this particular notion. Let me start with you, John.
Yeah, so I think what I've learned as well is there's usually the ideal that needs to be aspired to, but not in a rigid manner, because life is dynamic. And you find that as well, you remember there's so many examples in the Bible. Obviously, God is not for killing and human sacrifices, but what did He tell Abraham? And to some degree, Abraham had that same question as he was going to sacrifice his son, right? He was wondering, but God said this, and now He's saying this, and all that. But again, so it just shows that, in a way, God is trying to show us that, okay, in a way, we don't know anything, and we don't. But He's really trying to reveal to us His heart and His mind, which is treat people and leave them to their conscience. Because their conscience needs to be free to make those decisions themselves. We cannot impose on someone else with our own convictions. Yes.
Amen. Brenda.
This is a very hard topic for me because it is a very hard topic. Sally understands why.
Giving away her secrets.
But this is one of those moments I'm honestly tongue-tied because if I look back, I don't know, I'd honestly want to go back again because we're just not real people. As Adventists, we're just not real with each other. So I think I'll be crucified as the black sheep if I start telling people go out there. So I don't tell people to go out there. But there's one less thing to argue.
I like that.
My people, the decision is yours.
There's one less thing to argue. Okay. Let me come to you, Sally, then Roger. That is how heavy the conversation has been. Really have to lie from there.
Okay.
No, like Roger said earlier, let's love one another. It's all about love, right? I learned a lot from being in a relationship with someone outside the church, and I learned a lot from being in a relationship with someone who's in the church. They both taught me something. They both taught me something about myself that I didn't previously know. They both taught me something about God that I previously didn't realize. So if we love each other and stop pointing fingers, there's always 3 fingers pointing back at you. If you keep pointing, there's always 3 fingers always pointing back at you. If we stop pointing fingers, if we stop being too strong-willed in our flaws, if I can call it that, and love each other just genuinely, authentically, freely, then a lot of things might change. To the Adventist brothers out there, don't feel attacked.
Yes.
Don't feel attacked. Or don't feel compelled also to feel that, okay, now because she's my bro, and I'm not attracted to her in that sense, that I can't develop a friendship that will probably take you to your purpose or take you to your wife. Understand? Don't completely eliminate that factor. To the Adventist ladies, or rather to those ladies like John had said, those ones who are dating Jesus, that man in your head is in your head. He does not exist. But there are many brothers, thousands, millions of brothers out here who are looking at you, who are seeing you, who are loving you for who you are and what you stand for, your beliefs, your spirituality, and everything that you have, and are attracted to that. Why don't you give them that space? Why don't you give them room for them to, for lack of a better word, stay to their case? You never know what happens.
Okay. Brother, go state your case. Roger.
I just want to end by giving one piece of advice in the context. For those out there, both males and females, that don't have a mate, I want to give a piece of biblical advice. When Rebecca watered her camel and served, she found an Isaac, a really good man. There's a profound principle therein. This is, you don't have to look. I challenge you, water your camel. Find yourself serving, and the God who sees you in secret serving and watering your camel will bring a man that once you get him, you wouldn't have to work a day in his life. You wouldn't have to work a day in your life because Abraham and Isaac, they were wealthy. There's some woman out there listening to me. Go and water your camel. Don't be looking. Just water your camel, and you'll be surprised to see among the camels, you will find that man there. I say no more.
Praise Jesus. Preacher man, praise Jesus.
Sally, where do you go buy camels?
Please
tell us. What are these camels?
Now, there's something that she said that I want to put into perspective. I really don't know. This whole question of preference and attraction, ask your father and mother after 20 years if that attraction still exists. I'm careful to say that so you can attack me on that on my social media accounts, yes. Educate me on that particular statement, but then tell me if that attraction still is there. If anything, if that particular thing that you're looking for example, it's a physique, man, the moment you were born, that physique was lost. Let's rethink about what really attracts us, and we will eventually see our bros being very appealing, very, very attractive and appealing. Now, there's something that Roger shared with me some time back before coming to this show, and I want to put it right here in this particular set again. Most of us, both ladies and gents, we live heavenward. Praise Jesus. That is good. But where are you?
On earth.
On earth. Let's understand ideal and real and put it to the right context. Sally said something about, is it Sally or Aubrey? About we guys over-spiritualizing everything. That's true. John, you would agree.
Of course, yes.
We over-spiritualize very many things, and I'm going to leave it to Jesus Christ. I'm just going to leave it to Jesus Christ. But then there's this one last thing after, as we come to a close. Most of us guys, not even guys, most of us approach relationships as if they're mission fields. Sally, how are you?
I'm fine.
You know Jesus? Stop it. Let's stop it. Let's relate. Let's be human. And eventually, we'll have more, to the elders, we'll have more marriages in our churches.